Hello again, Mr. RG Stuff here, back in the workshop, and today on the bench I've got the makings of a 3D printed soundbox, or a reproducer as you might otherwise refer to it. And basically I've been and designed, or gone and designed all the various parts and printed them out, and I'm going to need to use a few other bits of hardware like some M3 nuts and bolts and the like, but essentially it's 3D printed. Now I've also got this this 3mm O-ring cord, which is just sort of black foam cord, which I'm using for the gaskets. So I've got a piece glued into a channel on this piece here. It's not so easy to see on this one, but there's a piece glued into there as well. And I've also left a channel on the back where the piece fits over the tone arm, and I'm probably going to glue a piece in there too, just to make a better fit. I mean, this is actually quite a close fit on the tone arm, but I'm going to try a piece of O cord in there too. It might improve the seal a bit better. I could possibly use just a standard O-ring, but I haven't got one that really fits. But I suspect I could make that work as well. So I just wanted to talk about the needle bar just for a moment. Now this has got probably the most hardware on it. So obviously there's a diaphragm there. The needle bar has got a hole in the front for the needle and an M3 screw just holding it in place. It's also got these two little tiny screws which are from an old hard disk drive, and they're there basically as the bearing mounts, and the bearing is just two gramophone needles which I have put into these holes, and I printed the holes deliberately slightly undersized, and then I pushed the gramophone needles in from the ends and heated them up as I was pushing them in. I used in fact my modified 3D tool, but a soldering iron would have done, so that they actually melted the plastic slightly as they got pushed through the hole. So they're a nice tight fit, and that is looking very promising. I think that looks really good. So hopefully that will work well. There are certainly other ways I could have done this. I've thought of maybe a few simpler ways of doing it, but that's very much the way that a lot of sound boxes are constructed. So I'm sort of at the stage now of putting it together, so I'll just do a very quick assemble. Just so you can see what it's going to look like. I've glued the O-rings in place because, to be honest, it was impossible to put it all together again when they were loose. They just kept popping out. Okay, so I'm going to do a better job lining it all up. The diaphragm's not quite central at the minute, but essentially you can see the sort of arrangement that it's going to be. This bit here does need to be glued down. Just going to use super glue for that. And on the back I've got a few extra bits here. So the tolerances on these aren't quite as good as I'd hoped. I mean, I got away with printing most of these bits only once. I expected to have to print everything at least twice, but most parts actually work first time. This bit's a bit loose, but it will be okay. And then there's this bit on the back here as well. And I still need to drill a hole and fit a pin in there as well. So yeah, so I think that's looking pretty good actually. I think that's gonna work just fine. So I'm going to put it together now, and we can see what it sounds like. Well, here it is, all done, ready for a test. I'm going to test it on a HMV 162 gramophone using one of the records that I picked up the other day and I showed in a previous video. For comparison, I'm going to use a HMV number 4, which is a similar sized soundbox. I did model the dimensions of this one on the H&V number 4. Now I did try and put a rubber seal on the back in that groove, but to be honest it didn't fit very well, and it didn't fit on the gramophone very well at all, so I ended up cutting it off. What I can say is that super glue does stick very well to PLA and the stuff that I was using, which is this 3mm rubber cord.
Dundee is mounted, he rides up the street, the bells living backwards, the drums their beat. But the provincial man said, just let it be, for the soldiers will rid all that zero Dundee.
Well, there you go. It does work, but sound quality is not the best. It's not very loud, and to be honest, when it gets to these sort of loud passages in the record, it distorts quite badly. I think essentially, I mean, there are going to be lots and lots of things I can improve on this, and I fully intend to have a bash at making it better. Essentially, one of the main problems is the sort of mass or the weight of it. It doesn't have that sort of very solid back bit, which causes a lot of these sort of vibrations to be damped out. So in terms of weight, it's showing at just under 38 grams. I have considered that maybe I can design the back of it, or redesign the back of it, so that I incorporate some of these washers. I think these are M16. And putting 3 of those on, which I think is my complete stock, is just under 30 grams, so that would be a significant increase in the weight. The other thing which I thought about is actually isolating it more from the tone arm. As I've previously said, I've not been able to put an isolator in there as I'd hoped, but in fact this whole sort of blue bit at the back here potentially could be isolated, possibly using something like cork, although cork's still pretty tough actually. It's not quite as soft as maybe I thought it was. It's also possible that I might be able to use something like rubber washers, or an O-ring like so. Get it into camera view there. Or even some more of this, I say rubber material, it's not really rubber I don't think, but this sort of plastic O-ring material which I used for the actual gaskets. So there's a variety of things I can do, and also I've considered maybe putting little washers in here and in here, which will help to isolate the front and the back a bit better. It'll I think increase the compliance. I think that's the correct term. The other thing I could do, I mean, sticking with the 3D printed aspect, is that there are actually flexible filaments that can be 3D printed. So I'm looking at getting hold of some of that, and then I'll be able to print my own gaskets, and maybe even some sort of like rubber isolator or rubber style isolator at the back, much like some of the other sound boxes have. So that's a possibility. Anyway, not a complete success, but certainly not a total failure either. And I hope to be back soon with some improvements to it. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Mr. RG Stuff. Thank you.